Thank you all for joining us today. I do want to thank the Maury County Chamber and Economic Alliance and the Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce for hosting this webinar today. My name is Kayla Miller. I am the Associate Director for the Tennessee Small Business Development Center at Middle Tennessee State University. Our service area covers a really large piece of southern Middle Tennessee, so some of you have probably seen our emails, seen me out in Maury County, but typically I am in Maury County every week on Wednesdays to meet with people. Our organization, the Small Business Development Center, we are a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. So I am not directly employed by the SBA. We receive funding from them to be able to provide no-cost consultation and technical services to the community. So through this whole process, we have been receiving guidance directly from the Small Business Administration as they receive updates, as information comes down, in order to be able to assist the community, to assist businesses in understanding what's going on and help them through this process. And again, all of that is no cost. The information that we're going to go over here today, we're going to go over all of the current programs that are out there related to the COVID-19 disaster funding. I do want to make sure that I let everybody know up front. This is an ever-changing landscape. Updates are coming out multiple times a day, sometimes every hour with changes. And so the information that I'm going to give you guys this morning is the information that I have as of this moment, as of 10 a.m. on Friday, April 3rd. That is subject to change. I did a webinar yesterday around lunchtime, and by 4:30, some of the information that I gave had been updated and was already out of date. So please know that we are doing our best to get you guys information that is accurate and up to date as we get it. I ask that all of you continue to persevere and with the banks and with our organization as we try to go through this process and try to provide you guys with as much information and as much help as we can. It's been a bumpy road, and for those of you who have applied for some of these programs already, you know that, and it will probably continue as things change and evolve. So all that being said, let's talk about the programs as they exist right now. So the first thing that I want to tell you guys about today is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, also known as the EIDL or EIDL. This is the first program that came out following the COVID-19 disaster declaration by the federal government. This loan program is the same loan program that is out there if your business is involved in a natural disaster. So if you've ever been impacted by a flood or a tornado or any other type of natural disaster and applied for an economic injury disaster loan, this is the same program. It does have a specific pool of money for COVID-19 disaster. This loan program is being done directly through the SBA, so the Small Business Administration. You apply directly to the Small Business Administration. It goes through the SBA loan processors, and that money is distributed directly from the U.S. Department of Treasury. You do not have to go through a lender for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. That program is a loan. It is not a grant. And so it is, the terms on that loan are 3.75% interest, up to 30 years for payment back, and up to $2 million per business. That loan does not have prepayment penalties. So if you take the loan and business picks back up, or you don't need as much as you originally thought, then you can prepay that back with no penalties. With this loan program, they are also doing a 12-month deferral on payments. So you receive the economic injury disaster loan. You do not have to make payments until 12 months after you have received that loan. And so that's the economic injury disaster loan. It can be used for working capital, any working capital for your business. So payroll, inventory, regular fixed expenses for your business. You can use that economic injury disaster loan for any of those things. And so those are kind of the highlights of that program. It's very easy to apply. If you go online and you Google SBA Disaster Loan, the first thing that's going to come up is the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. It is a very streamlined application. So if anybody applied at the very beginning, you know that it was 6 different forms, lots of information. It's now been streamlined, and it takes about 10 minutes to fill out that application. It's super easy. The most complicated things that asks for are, you do have to report your revenue for the past 12 months and your cost of goods sold. Our recommendation from someone in our offices who is a CPA or an accountant has been to make sure that you kind of match that up with your tax returns. The SBA loan officers are going to be pulling tax returns, and so you want it to kind of mirror each other. You don't want it to be anything that's significantly different than what you would report on your tax returns and how that's calculated. One of the other things that's on that application is it is going to ask you about the advance. So last week, when the CARES Act was passed and signed into law, part of that was implemented was an advance on the economic injury disaster loan. So there was a realization that with this economic injury disaster loan program, it was going to take a few months to process and get money out to people, and businesses need money now. And so they implemented an advance. You do have to apply for the economic injury disaster loan to get the advance. It is the same process. There is just a checkbox on the application for the economic injury disaster loan that says, would you like to also apply for the advance? The advance is up to $10,000. It is not a guaranteed $10,000. It is up to $10,000. And that amount is based on the number of employees that you report on your form. So when you fill out that economic injury disaster loan application, it's going to ask you for the number of employees. The advance is based on the number of employees that you have. If you are a business owner or a sole proprietor filling out that application, make sure to count yourself as an employee. So you do need to count in that count for that application. For those of you who have maybe already filled out that application, if you did not count yourself as an employee, when the SBA loan officer contacts you, make sure to let them know that there is a correction that you need to make, and that you did not count yourself as an employee and you need to be counted in that employee count. That is information direct from our Tennessee District Office for the Small Business Administration. So there's no way to make a change to an application once it's been submitted. So that would be how you do that, is just to let the loan officer know that. The most important piece about the advance is that it does not have to be repaid. So if the SBA offers you $4,000 for the advance, you do not have to pay for that or pay that back. You can actually accept the advance and not accept the loan, and you still don't have to repay the advance. You can also be offered the advance and not the loan. So an SBA officer might contact you and offer you the advance and not offer you a loan, and you still do not have to repay that advance. Our understanding is that advance does not have to be repaid under any circumstance. So when would you receive the advance? That's another one of the questions that we're seeing a lot of. The advance funds are supposed to be sent out to the business owner 3 days after the application has been approved. So I know that originally there was some thought and some communication that was going to be 3 days after you submitted your application. We confirmed with the SBA that it's actually 3 days after your application has been approved. So if you receive a call from the SBA and they approve your application, and in advance, you would receive the application funds 3 days later, as opposed to the full loan amount. if you get an actual loan, those loans are not being processed through attorneys or banks. The SBA will send you your loan packet directly via the mail, and you will complete that as indicated in the loan packet from the SBA. So those funds will be sent out a little bit later, whereas the advance is going to be 3 days after your approval. So that's what we're looking at with the economic injury disaster loan with the advance piece. That process has been ongoing now for about a week now. And the application has not changed this week. So we anticipate that one is going to stay the same. For anyone on the call who maybe filled out that application early, if you filled out the economic injury disaster loan application before March 30th, the SBA is recommending that you go back in and fill out the new streamlined application. It will not change your place in line, but it just makes sure that the SBA actually has all of the information that they need to process your loan. So that is something that I would definitely consider if you filled out that application early. So that's the advance and the economic injury disaster loan. So now let's talk about the Paycheck Protection Program. This is the one that we are getting the most information on right now. It's evolving constantly. Things are changing. So this is the one that I really want to focus in on, that the information may change and shift. Right now, our understanding is that you can apply for both the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. That is our current understanding. There is a place on the application for the Paycheck Protection Program where you do have to indicate if you have received funds from the economic injury disaster loan program. But our understanding from the SBA as of yesterday was that individual business owners could apply for both programs. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be one or the other. So what is the Paycheck Protection Program, and kind of how, what is our understanding of how it's going to work right now? And again, this is very fluid right now. The Paycheck Protection Program is going to be done through SBA approved lenders. Not every financial institution is an SBA approved lender. So you do have to make sure you are using an SBA approved lender. There are multiple financial institutions in Murray County who are already SBA approved lenders. And there are probably several others who are trying to become SBA approved lenders. So there are multiple institutions who are trying to go through that process right now to be SBA approved lenders to help with this process. The way that you find out who SBA approved lenders are, the easiest way that I can tell you is to, in just a internet search, if you Google Tennessee SBA Resource Guide, it's going to pop up with some options for you. There's a PDF document that the SBA puts out of a magazine that they do, a resource guide for small business owners. And in the back of that PDF document is a listing by county of all SBA approved lenders in your area. So that is the best way for you guys to find out who your SBA approved lenders are. Again, like I said at the beginning, this is a huge undertaking for these institutions. So there are going to be kinks that they have to work out internally. There are changes coming down from the SBA and the Department of Treasury on these programs, and so there's going to be hiccups. So again, just be patient with us, with the lenders, with the SBA, with everybody involved in this process, because it is ever changing. So what does the loan program actually look like? The loan program can be used for payroll costs, including benefits, interest on mortgage obligations that were incurred before February 15th, rent, and that rent has to be for rent that was under lease agreements in force before February 15th. So if you signed a lease on March 15th, you could not use it for you could not use the Paycheck Protection Program for that rent. And then utilities for which service began before February 15th. So there are very specific guidelines on what this funding can be used for. The reason there are such specific guidelines and the reason you want to follow those guidelines is because if you follow the guidelines for the Paycheck Protection Program and use the funds to bring back your employees or to continue to have your employees on staff for the 8 weeks following the loan distribution or the loan approval, those funds can be forgiven. So if you go through the process with the lender and you provide them all the documentation that they need in order to make sure that you use those funds appropriately to keep your employees on staff, to pay them their full wages and payroll and benefits, or to use it on one of those other approved items, then that loan can be forgiven. My understanding per the regulations that have been put out by the Department of Treasury is that that forgiveness is up to the lender. So you will have to go to your lender who approved and gave you the funds for the Paycheck Protection Program, tell them that you're interested in the loan forgiveness, provide them with the documentation, and then they will be the ones who will forgive that. If you do not qualify for the forgiveness of the loan, the terms of that loan, it is a 2-year loan at 1% interest. This is one of the changes that we've seen recently. As of yesterday, it was 0.5%. As of today, that has been updated. The loan is a 2-year loan at 1% interest. Also, from my understanding, there are no additional fees that are going to be associated with that loan. Traditionally, with an SBA-backed loan, if anybody's ever done an SBA 7A loan, you have to pay a guarantee fee to the SBA. The SBA has waived all fees related to this. And from what I have read from the Department of Treasury, lenders will not be directly charging borrowers any fees for this loan. There is also a deferral on this loan. There is a 6-month deferral on payments, but it's important to note that interest is still going to accrue during that time. So as that 6 month is rolling, there's still interest building up during that time. I also want to tell you guys about where to find some really good resources on this, because there is a lot of information. There are a lot of questions out there. The best source that I can give you is directly from the Department of Treasury. So if you go to the Department of Treasury's website, it's home.treasury.gov. And I think Nicole and Rebecca are putting links in the comments for us or in the chat. Home.treasury.gov. There is a bar at the top that's for small business owners to click if they have questions. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a web page that's got several different documents that you guys can read through. One of them is a fact sheet for borrowers. It's got a lot of different FAQs on there, answers to commonly asked questions. So I encourage you to go and to read that, because it is very valuable information. There is also a sample application on there, as well as information for lenders. One thing I will note is that a lender may ask you for more information than what is in the loan application. So they can do that. So there is the loan application, and then they may ask you for additional information. So things you want to think about. You want to start preparing to apply for that loan by getting documents ready, like your 2019 payroll records. If you have them, your 2018 payroll records, your payroll records year to date for this year, your tax returns from last year. If you have not filed them yet or have not prepared them yet, your profit and loss statements, your balance sheets, your statements of cash flow. So you want to have all of these things ready so that when you do go to complete the application and to go to the lender for the Paycheck Protection Program, you have all of that ready. My understanding is that there are a lot of lenders who are currently accepting applications for the Paycheck Protection Program. They are accepting them right now. My understanding as of earlier this morning and late yesterday was that many of them are not yet processing them. because as of yesterday evening, they had not received guidance from the SBA on the how of this program. So they're accepting applications. Many of them are. So check with your lenders, check with your SBA lender if you have a loan with them or have accounts with them. If you don't have loans or accounts with them, check with the banks that you or credit unions that you do have accounts with and see if they are trying to become an SBA lender and what information that they are going to need from you to process these applications. The Paycheck Protection Program is also open to sole proprietors, independent contractors, any type of business structure. So whatever you are, whether you're self-employed, independent contractor, LLC, S corporation, any type of business can apply for either one of these programs. The other thing that we're getting a lot of questions about is what if I've already furloughed my employees or laid off my employees? So with the Paycheck Protection Program, you just have to make sure that you have brought your employees back by June 30th for this program. So as long as you have done that, then you should be good. There's no requirement to bring them back right now. In fact, when we were on a call the other day with the SBA, they said that employees, you can actually go ahead if you need to for business reasons, you can go ahead and furlough or lay off your employees so that they can go ahead and apply for unemployment and then bring them back by June 30th for the Paycheck Protection Program. Again, there are a lot of questions coming up, and I'm going to do my best to answer the ones that you guys have. But if there are questions that I don't know the answer to, or there are questions that come up later, you can either directly contact our office or the Tennessee SBA District Office is hosting virtual office hours every day at 3 p.m. for small business owners to answer questions related to both of these programs, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program and the Paycheck Protection Program. I'll put it in the comments afterward when I can type, but the way that you contact them and get in on that phone call, it is a WebEx phone call. The phone number is 415-655-0003, and the meeting code is 614-098-543. And so that's another really great resource for you guys in addition to contacting us at our organization. So those are the highlights of both of the loan programs based on what I currently know. I also do want to mention that these programs are for small businesses. So you do have to meet the SBA size guidelines for small businesses to qualify for these programs. For most businesses, that's going to mean that you have less than 500 employees. There are some exceptions to that. There's some industries that are sizes based on revenue. Construction is one that comes to mind. So you do have to make sure that you are in a industry or you do meet the size guidelines. So those are the highlights of the programs, again, as I know them right now. And so I'm going to go through and start answering questions. So please go through. If you have questions, start putting them in the chat, and I will go through and start answering them one by one. I do also want to mention, if you are self-employed, you can also apply for unemployment with the state of Tennessee if your business is shut down. So under natural disaster declarations and special circumstances, self-employed individuals can apply for unemployment with the state as well. So one of the questions, as the landscape changes, how can we best keep up to date with new information? So I would definitely, if you're not already on social media, follow our office. So it's going to be on Facebook. We're listed as the Tennessee Small Business Development Center at MTSU. So follow us on Facebook. I would also follow the SBA and the Department of Treasury. They are the two departments that are kind of spearheading all of these efforts. So I would follow both of those on Facebook, and the two federal organizations on Twitter. If you do have a Twitter account, they're both keeping things up regularly with what's going on. So that's probably the best way. Again, we are trying to let people know as we meet with them what's going on. And then if something changes, we're trying to get that information out quickly. We also try to send that information out to the chambers of commerce so that they can then send that out to you guys as chamber members. So that's probably the best way that I can tell you. Let's see, next question. After you submit your application and get a confirmation number, when will those advances be sent out? So the advances will be sent out 3 days following the approval of your application, which I know I talked about that at the beginning. I also want to make sure I let you guys know, a lot of people have asked about going in to check on their economic injury disaster loan application. The SBA took that option off of the website. So you can no longer go to the SBA's website and check the status of your economic injury disaster loan application. I've also been told that if you call the SBA's 800 number, they are not able to give you specific information over the phone for your application. So to be honest, there's really not a good way to check right now about your confirmation or about your economic injury disaster loan, which I know is incredibly frustrating. But I don't have a good answer for that. I do know as well, another resource, the SBA has moved their call center operations to 24/7. And the wait time has gone down drastically as they have staffed up. So if you need to call the SBA directly, their phone number is 800-659-2955. And so you can call and ask them questions as well, and they should be able to answer them just like the Tennessee state office would, but they're a 24/7 operation. I know I mentioned that right now you can apply for both the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. Again, that is on the application for the Paycheck Protection Program. It does ask you if you have received economic injury disaster loan funding, and you do have to disclose that. If you have applied and have not received anything, I'm assuming you would just put that you have not received anything, because that is true as of the time you fill out the application. Next question, what if you are an independent contractor? Independent contractors, as self-employed individuals, you can apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. And I believe you can also apply for the economic injury disaster loan. There is no limitation on that. So you should be able to apply for both those programs as well. So I believe the application for independent contractors is opening on April 10th for the Paycheck Protection Program. So that it's a little bit later than other businesses. But yes, as far as I know, you can still apply as an independent contractor. Do I know the time frame of someone with the SBA will contact you after you have submitted your economic injury disaster loan? I do not. The original guidance from the SBA was that they were going to contact, or that they would be processing these within 7 to 10 days. But based on the fact that no one in our network has heard from any client who has received any contact, other than a couple of denials at the very, very beginning of the process, we do not know of anyone that's even been contacted by the SBA. So I do not know the answer to that. That is something that we will try to ask the SBA. I don't know that our district office will even know the answer to that. So that's something that I don't know right now. The next question, do you have to bring employees back at the same rate of pay for the Paycheck Protection Program? I believe that you do. I'm trying to look right now at the fact sheet, and I believe that you do have to bring them back at the same rate. That you can choose to bring them back at a lower rate, but that is going to impact the loan forgiveness. So that is something that I do see on the fact sheet from the Department of Treasury. It says, for level of payroll, your loan forgiveness will also be reduced if you decrease salaries and wages by more than 25% for any employee that made less than $100,000 annualized. So it looks like you might bring them back a little bit lower, but it can't be by more than 25% of their wages. Otherwise, it's going to impact your forgiveness. Again, you can do that, but your full Paycheck Protection Program loan amount will not be forgiven per the guidelines. Next question. If not in business for 12 months, can we participate? Let's see, there's more to that. Yes, you can participate as long as you were in business at the time that the disaster declaration was done. You can apply, especially if you've acquired a business. That's an interesting question because the business was in existence before the disaster declaration, so you can definitely do that. What that means for businesses that have not been in business for 12 months is that you're probably going to have to provide a little bit more documentation. That is a specific question on the Economic Injury Disaster Loan application. Have you been in business for less than 12 months? Check this box. And so you're probably going to have to provide more in the way of financial statements. So your profit and loss, your balance sheet. They're probably going to want to see that for this year, year to date, as well as what you have for last year, year to date. But absolutely, you can apply for that. You just have to make sure that you were in business prior to the disaster declarations. The next question. We use temporary agencies for temp to hire. Can the temporary labor be included in the total payroll cost and in the FTE, the full-time equivalent? That's a really great question. Someone did ask that to the SBA yesterday. And the guidance that we received is that it is whoever is paying the payroll was who could be included. So if you're not the ones that are actually putting the money out for payroll, I believe you cannot count them. I know for the Paycheck Protection Program, you cannot count independent contractors in your employee count. But I would, if you're looking at it from the Paycheck Protection Program, I would definitely talk to your lender about that and get a little bit more guidance on that. The next question. My business partner and I started our LLC back in October, and we are paid commissions for insurance sales. Should we apply as the LLC or both as individual independent contractors? So if you are both members of the LLC and you're paying yourselves as employees through the LLC, then I would apply as the LLC and go through it that way. If you're paying yourselves 1099 as independent contractors, then technically I guess you could do both. But if you're paying yourselves as employees and you're members of the LLC, I would probably go through the LLC employee route. Let's see. I applied for the advance and the Paycheck Protection Program. Would I still have to apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan to get the advance? If you applied for the advance, you also applied for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Those applications are one and the same. So if you've applied for the advance, you have automatically also applied for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. If the SBA calls you and offers you the advance and the loan, you can, from what we understand, you can choose to just take the advance and not take the loan. But you do have to, when you apply for the advance, you're also applying for the loan. So those applications are one and the same. Next question is, Paycheck Protection Program mentions a fixed rate of 4%. You stated 1% that had been changed from 0.5%. Please explain the difference or change. So originally what was put out there was 4%. That was the original guidance from the SBA and the Department of Treasury on the Paycheck Protection Program, was that it was going to be a fixed rate of 4%. That then got changed to 0.5%, and now that has been changed to 1%. 1% is the guidance that we have as of today from the Department of Treasury. As to the explanation of the difference or the change, I don't have any insight into why that changed. All I know is that it did change. So that was, as people like to say, that was way, 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 way above my pay grade. So all I know is that it has changed. Let's see, I'm an LLC running a brick and mortar serving curbside. Does it make a difference if I try to remain open even with business being way down? It does not. So either for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program or the Paycheck Protection Program, you can apply for both even if your business is still open. You are seeing a reduction in revenue, so you probably still need some help from the economic injury disaster part to help pay the remainder of your working capital expenses, the rest of your rent, the rest of your utilities, the employees that you are able to keep on staff. You can also apply for the Paycheck Protection Program to be able to bring those people back full-time to work by June 30th. Hopefully your business will be back open, but even if it's not, you can bring those people back and pay them through the forgivable loan that is being done through the lenders. So you can do both of those. The next question, our business relies on part-time labor. Do you use 40 hours to compute full-time equivalent? Typically, we would use, my background is human resources, so my general rule of thumb is I use 32 hours. Well, you could use 32 or 40. Let me think about that for just a second. I would use 40 hours to compute your FTE. So if they're working 20 hours a week, then you would need two part-times to make a full-time equivalent. So go ahead and use 40. Just make sure that you write that down somewhere so that if the SBA or the bank or the credit union or the lender asks you that question, you can tell them kind of how you calculated that. If you pay your employees as independent contractors, we cannot get Paycheck Protection Program for them, correct? So do they each need to fill out their own PPP as independent contractors? Okay, so you cannot count or receive funding for independent contractors with the Paycheck Protection Program, because the assumption is independent contractors are their own businesses and they can apply for the Paycheck Protection Program on their own. So yes, they would need to fill out their own Paycheck Protection Program application, or do their own economic injury disaster loan application, or do their own unemployment filings as independent contractors who own their own businesses. The next question, are member draws eligible to be included in the Paycheck Protection Program? That is a really great question. The guidance that we received yesterday is that yes, members who take a draw are eligible to use that in the Paycheck Protection Program to help pay themselves. The question that we don't know the answer to on that is how you will prove that for loan forgiveness. So I would make sure before you go down that road that you talk to your lender about the documentation that you are going to need to provide to show that you use that to pay yourself. When you don't pay yourself through payroll, you pay yourself through a draw. So the answer to that question is yes, draws are eligible to be included as far as we know. The question that needs clarification that we haven't gotten yet is how you prove that for loan forgiveness. Same question about brick and mortar, but what about for unemployment? Give me just a second. Let me read the question again. Okay, so what about for unemployment if you have a brick and mortar? If you have furloughed your employees or laid off your employees, they can apply for unemployment. And then you can bring them back with the Paycheck Protection Program. So if you have had to let them go or you've already let them go, they should be able to apply for unemployment. If you are still running at low staff and you're still staffing them and still have them employed, then no, they could not apply for unemployment because you're still paying them. They're still employed with you. So they do have to be unemployed to receive unemployment. And I think that answers the question. Whoever asked that, there's not a name on it. If you need some clarification, please ask. I want to make sure I answer that. I think somebody answered, insurance reply to the LLC independent contractor answer, the insurance companies pay us direct commissions. Okay. That's an interesting question. And so they pay you direct commissions through their company as independent contractors. That does not flow through your business. So technically you could, I believe, do both. Your business could apply, and then you could apply as independent contractors as well. The next question is commission pay considered part of required salary? So I believe, and let me go back and look. Yes, commissions do count as payroll cost. So what counts as payroll cost per the fact sheet is salaries, wages, commissions, or tips. That is capped at $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee. So commissions are considered part of that salary as far as payroll costs. Who is the decision maker on whether the PPP is forgiven? My understanding is that is being done by the lenders themselves. That's from what I have read. Again, that might change. I do not know if the SBA is going to be involved in that any. From what I have read, forgiveness is up to the lender, and that's what I know right now. What about us as owners? If we're working still, are we eligible for unemployment? Same kind of answer with the brick and mortar employees. Your business has to be shut down, or you have to be not working to receive unemployment. The assumption with unemployment is you're no longer able to draw wages from something because you're no longer working there. So if you've had to shut your business down, you're not working anymore, that's when you should be eligible to apply for unemployment. The next question, the PPP application only has a place to put average monthly payroll. It doesn't have anywhere on the application to put rent and utilities. From what I have read on the fact sheet, what they're doing is taking your payroll and wages and then increasing that by 25%. So on here on the fact sheet, it says due to likely high subscription, it's anticipated that not more than 25% of the forgiven amount may be for non-payroll costs. So I think what they're going to be doing, and again, I don't know the how yet, is they're gonna take that, and 25% of that amount can be used for those other items, that rent and that mortgage interest and those utilities. For the Paycheck Protection Program, does it have to be used 8 weeks from the date you receive it, or any 8 weeks as long as it started before June 30th? Let's see. What I have been told is that it's 8 weeks from when you receive the loan, or 8 weeks from when. I don't think you can choose when to use it. I'm trying to find that on this fact sheet, so that I make sure I tell you guys the right thing. I can't find it offhand, but I believe it is. Okay, here it is. The loan proceeds are used to cover payroll costs and most mortgage interest, rent, and utility costs over the 8 week period after the loan is made. So you cannot choose when you're going to use that. It has to be per this information sheet over the 8-week period after the loan is made. If you are laid off but company is still paying your insurance, are you eligible for unemployment? I do not know the answer to that question. That would be a question that I would direct you to contact the Tennessee Department of Labor on. I don't have any clarity on that question. I apologize, Linda. And then the next question, will you be doing another webinar, and can we share with others we know that need help? As far as another webinar, that's possibly as things change, if they continue to change, that's something that we will be in conversation with the Spring Hill Chamber and the Murray County Chamber and Economic Alliance to discuss that. And as far as sharing with others, yes, please feel free. I don't have a problem with that. You can also have them contact our office. So if anybody is looking for one-on-one help, needs some guidance through this, wants more information, they're welcome to contact our office directly. Right now, we are directing everyone to contact us via email because, like most everybody else, we are working remotely. Our email address is mtsu@T for Tennessee, S for small, B for business, D for development, C for center.org. If you contact us there, you will be able to get access to either meet with myself or our director, Chris, at the earliest available time that we can meet with you. So please feel free to share that as well. A couple more questions here. I'm a 1099 independent contractor. Do you recommend the Economic Injury Disaster Loan over the Paycheck Protection Program, or both? So what we're kind of recommending right now is that businesses consider, and independent contractors in that, businesses consider applying for both programs. And then if you are made an offer on both programs, making a decision about which one is the best for your business. Because if you only apply for one and you don't receive that one, then you may not have access to the other one due to the fact that both of these programs do have funding caps. So this is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. They are not unlimited pools of money. They will eventually run out. So I would recommend that you consider applying for both. And then if you receive offers from both, then you can make a good business decision on which one to move forward with. If you furlough workers for a month but bring them back before 6/30/2020, it seems like the forgiveness part won't work. I'm not sure why, and Terry, if you want to give a little bit more explanation why you think that, I'm happy to address that if I can. But the way that it's stated in here is you have until June 30th, 2020 to restore your full-time employment and salary levels for any changes made between February 15th, 2020 and April 26th. So that is something that you want to make sure you note, is that it's for changes made between February 15th and April 26th. So if you furlough your employees on May 1st, that doesn't count as part of this program. So you do have to furlough or lay them off before April 26th and make sure to bring them back before June 30th. So that's going to be the vital part. Are applications for the PPP loan already exceeding the amount appropriated for the program? I have no idea. Given that a lot of lenders aren't processing right now, or that, again, this is the latest that I was told, I do not know the answer to that question. As far as sharing the recording of this video, where do we find it? Nicole answered that. Murray Alliance will send out a copy of this recording in our newsletter, and we'll upload it to a web page that she's included. Eddie asked about our email address. Nicole put it up a couple of lines in the chat. It's MTSU at T for Tennessee, S for small, B for business, D for development, C for center.org. Another question, if you apply for both the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the Paycheck Protection Program and get approved for both, can you take both? As far as I understand, you can. You can take both programs. They're intended for different purposes. And that's how it was explained to us by the SBA. I just completed the Paycheck Protection Program application, but don't see where to send it. So that program is being done through lenders, SBA approved lenders. And so that is something that you are going to have to submit to those lenders directly. Their application may be a little different or may ask for more information, and they may ask for more supplemental information. And so that's going to be something that you have to send directly to them. That does not go directly to the SBA. And someone else has, Spring Hill Chamber will also email the recording to all members and upload it to their website. So this will be available on both Murray County Chamber and Spring Hill Chamber's website as well. Another question, just to confirm, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan is not forgivable. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan is not forgivable. The advance of up to $10,000 that is part of the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that is not to be repaid. So the loan itself is not forgivable, but the advance as part of the Economic Injury Disaster Loan program is already forgiven. There's no paperwork to go with that. From what we understand, it's just an automatic for the advance part, not for the loan part. Let's see. Someone asked about the list of PPP lenders. So those are all going to be SBA approved lenders. The list of current SBA approved lenders, if you do a Google search for SBA Tennessee resource guide, it's going to give you a couple of links. One of them is going to be for a PDF that will take you directly to the Tennessee resource guide for the SBA. On page 31, starting on page 31, you will find a list of SBA approved lenders by county. And so you can scroll over to Murray County and find that list. And I actually have that pulled up, so I'll just kind of give those to you guys right now. In Columbia, we have First Farmers and Merchants Bank, First Tennessee Bank, which I know has changed names, but it's still in here as First Tennessee Bank, Regions Bank, Simmons Bank, US Bank. In Mount Pleasant, we have the South Central Tennessee Business Development Corporation. In Spring Hill, we have First Citizens National Bank, Fifth Third Bank, and SunTrust Bank. Again, make sure if you don't have existing accounts with all of these, with any of these institutions, contact the financial institutions that you do have accounts with and ask them if they have been approved as an SBA lender. A lot of these lenders, or a lot of lenders, are trying to get approved by the SBA to process these applications. So they might be SBA approved lender without being on this list. So make sure that you do that as well. They might tell you that they're not, and maybe ask them who they're referring people to. So that's where you find that list. So I think that was the last question. Any other questions? You guys have asked some really great questions. Again, make sure you keep up with the Department of Treasury and the SBA. Call into those 3 o'clock open office hours with the Tennessee SBA District Office. Even if you don't have a question, somebody else may ask a question that you didn't even think that you needed to know the answer to. So call into those and see, listen to what's going on. You guys hang in there. Again, be patient with your lenders. Be patient with us and the SBA as we try to all work through this. I know everybody is currently at and stretched beyond capacity for the things that we normally do. So we are all doing our best to help small businesses as much as we can. Continue to support your local small businesses. You guys are great at doing that. So keep up that work. And with that, we will end the presentation. Again, thank you to the Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce and the Murray County Chamber and Economic Alliance for hosting this. And I look forward to working with all of you. And everybody have a great Friday and a great weekend.